Cool. Okay, so I'm happy to have this interview with Gretchen Andrew, my friend and a world-renowned artist. We are doing this interview for the Flux Academy and for Alice in Blockchains. And thank you, girls, for allowing me to do this. So, Gretchen, hi. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Great, great. It's finally great to have this interview with you. And let's just, get started with you telling us a bit about yourself and how did you get started in the art world and stuff like that.
Well, I really started more in the technology world. I studied information theory, and I was very interested in the way that technology could be leveraged to create meaning. Went through an education program that was really focused on leveraging information technology to create competitive advantage, to create economic value. But there's all of these systems and tools that go into that. And I became really curious about the way that it could be used initially for personal transformation. I was seeing technology used primarily to manipulate our attention and to sell us things we don't need and to concentrate power. And so my art project has largely been an investigation of algorithmic power and how we can get those systems to do maybe slightly unexpected things that often shift power narratives.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. And how later down the road art got in the way, or it was from beginning there?
Well, I think of an artist. So my definition for an artist is somebody who's celebrated for being themselves. And a professional artist is someone who's paid and celebrated for being themselves. And I think that description is not just the sort of the domain of artists. I think it's something that everybody is entitled to. It's just something that keeps at the center of art something that both connects with others, but is also very unique to the individual. So my own story took me, through technology, like through classical oil painting, but that path is specifically the one that was I was being led to do, but also that I was curious about.
Okay, so I told you earlier that we have like 70 women in the academy, and they're, as far as I know, getting started in their art journey. So, and I know that all have different challenges. So, what was the biggest challenge for you when you were starting out? Do you maybe remember?
Yeah, I mean, where do I begin, right?
Yeah.
I think that the biggest challenge is going to be any limiting belief that, sorry, the sun is like rising and it's like halfway in on the sunny side of the screen.
Get a little bit of tan.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, there's a big building out there. It's like reflecting sun. I hope it's working for my skin. I think the biggest challenge is any limiting belief that we bring into the process, whether it's I can't make money from this, or I don't know enough people, or the art world only exists for a certain set of people and not me, or it's so difficult to break into. Whatever these beliefs are that don't serve your goals, I think are the biggest things to sort of question and to confront. Of course, like some of those cliches and some of those beliefs come from places, they might even come from statistics, but ultimately there are a lot of people and there are a lot of women who succeed in the NFT space, who succeed in the art world, and determining as early as you can your own definition of success is, and being honest with yourself about what it is you want from that, not just choosing a definition of success based on what you think is statistically reasonable, and sort of keeping in check with yourself along the way will create kind of like a center of guidance. And then really from there, like the ability to get educated or to meet the right people or to find the resources to do what it is that you want to do. It's an ongoing journey. I always tell my students that it takes as much creativity to make it work as it does to make the work, and to bring that spirit of creativity to the process of learning and discovery, and if what you want is building a career or a public career.
Because in my journey of talking to the artists and helping them, onboard to the NFT game, I've learned a couple of things. And for example, you have artists who are also running a business, who are also entrepreneurs, who are, making money from their art, living from their art. And on the other hand, you have artists who are maybe just saying that it's not their goal to make money because they are not making money at that moment. But as far as I understood, and every successful artist I met is also, he or she is an artist, but also an entrepreneur, right? Is that like a rule to be a successful artist?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are circumstances where, somebody has the right team in place, or they know the right people, where they don't have to do all aspects of that. But ultimately, to have a public career, to have a market, it usually takes multiple job descriptions, and you're either doing it for yourself or you found someone to work with, whether it's a platform or, in the more traditional art world, a gallery. But I think it's less and less likely that there isn't a stage where you're doing your own social media, you're doing your own website, you're doing your own Telegram, you're doing your own, what's that one, Discord, or, whatever,
Yeah.
the community building and meaning building is around your art. Getting it out there and building its market, sharing it with the world often takes teams and or algorithms, and sometimes other people do that for you, but there's always somebody doing it. And at the beginning, it's often you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah, because, as I see it, and I always preach three things, storytelling, brand building, and community building. And I don't even see how can you succeed without those, And in my presentation and workshop that we did for Flux, that was my 3 pinpoints that I was trying to tell to the artists. But I've seen that they're more preoccupied of how they are going to mint an NFT, which is very simple, as you know, and not that important as it is important to tell a story, build a brand, build a community. So, in your opinion, how important, and can you even succeed without a community, right, behind you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the word community can have very different meanings. I don't think you can succeed without a market. And a lot of people have a community without a market. And there are communities are one way to build a market. But community also has other values to it. It just means that it's, again, like, what is the goal? To create with other, to feel like a creator, to identify as an artist. Sometimes that's the most important thing about a community, is it allows you to feel a sense of belonging and remember that you are not only capable, but you have the resources to create and to share it with the world. And that encouragement can be essential in the stages of developing art and figuring out, what is that story? What is it that you want to make? These things rarely go linearly. The skills to make what you want to make, the technical ability to make what you want to make, and then actually making and building the story around it. Like, a lot of artists, like, we're not fully like incepted brands when we decide we want to be an artist. So there's often a point where you sort of look back and say, okay, what is my story? And who am I that's going into my work, and how do I share that through the work?
Interesting. And for example, I have a lot of questions here, but I'm starting to think on how can we best help these young artists, girls, to succeed. So, if you could, I know that in the beginning of the career there are a lot of things that you need to focus, and you need to be very, in all of the places at the same time. But if you could pinpoint one thing, would it be like, I don't know, creating a social media profiles and sharing your art, or is it, just focusing on your art, or or educating yourself around whatever interests you, what would be like, I will spend 60% of my energy on this?
Well, I really liked your formulation of, storytelling, brand building, and community building. I think you probably need at least two of those elements. Like, having all three is ideal. You might not have the time because you also have to make the art, right? You also have to technology behind the art. So, like, it's easy to say like prioritize everything. I think it's figuring out what it is that you really like doing, and then start opening yourself up, or find ways to have the opportunity to plug in with other people who are maybe more interested and more expert in the other aspects.
Yeah. And do you, for example, outsource your marketing and social media?
I mean, not entirely. I mean, I work with somebody who does my reel videos on Instagram, which is a huge part of telling the story. Yeah. And then I also work with a lot of young women who want to be in the art world but are looking for their first jobs. So I have a small studio team that, depending on who I'm working with at the time and what their skill sets are, social media, storytelling, organizing, press, community building, are aspects of everybody that is on my team at some point.
Yeah. There are a lot of moving parts there. So I want to, another important question that I've seen in the group popping up a lot is artists, and not just in this Flux Academy, but all over my timeline on X, is how do you price your art? And I'm going to tell you a little story. I've been arguing a lot, not arguing, just expressing my opinion that you shouldn't sell your art cheap, because I've seen a lot of artists all over the timeline on X selling their art, like on, for example, on marketplaces like Object and Exchange Art and stuff like that, for literally like 10 bucks. So I was interested. So I DM'd a couple of them and asking how long does it take you to make this art? Like, is it just 1 hour, or is it? And this one girl, which was really interesting to me, she said for some piece it took her like a month, not the whole month, but a month, Mm-hmm. And I think to myself, and you're selling it was like $5. And she said that there are no collectors who are willing to pay more. And it's like, it's that vicious circle where so-called collectors on X are buying a lot of this cheap art just to gain popularity of their own account on X, and being praised by the artist because they bought their art for $5. And I'm not mocking to the artists, because I heard opinions that in some countries $5 is a lot, and I can imagine that it is. But on the other hand, I would never sacrifice my art just to make a sale. I would rather go get a job and let my art have its journey to success. So how do you determine the price?
Yeah, and I won't pretend to be someone who really understands the collectors that are in this world. Like, obviously the like my target and interest in the traditional fine art world is because it does exist in a somewhat stable market system where there are known markers of value other than someone's personal opinion, right? So this exists in the NFT world as well. Like, who else collects it? How many are made? How scarce it is? How serious is this artist? I think there is a lot of thrill in making money from art, from having any sort of transaction that comes from that. And I think that's often the stage a lot of these artists are at, right? Like, if you think about like the journey and brand, this might be like in a 50-year-long art career in which the first 20 years are traditionally making work that nobody cares about or nobody pays you for. Until then, maybe you can start selling your work for the ability to make money from it. The NFT world's a little bit more like, I don't know, get paid a little bit along the way. And I think that, ultimately that's what I mean in this, like the storytelling, the market making, like you can't expect to put art out into X and have people inherently know its value. Like I don't believe that anyone is entitled to anybody's attention or anybody's money for their work. And the process of going from $10 to $10 million is one that I don't understand necessarily in the NFT world, but there are it's rarely I think the stories that get highlighted are the ones of like, oh, like I put this out there and then I made a ton of money, right? Like it's very distracting to the reality of sort of how that market works and what makes something valuable. And like I said, like in the traditional art world, what makes something valuable, what museums collect it, like what, exhibitions have been, who's reviewed it. Like there's these traditional markers of success. People can say, oh, she's been in the Whitney. Oh, like she's got an exhibition at MoMA. She shows with this gallery. And those things are beginning to exist in the NFT world. They're completely different markers, but they are sort of how you know that this artist isn't going to just stop doing this in a couple weeks. Like that's what a measure of seriousness is. Like making like a couple great pieces, making a couple collections is really interesting, but like an artist has an oeuvre, an artist has a body of work that and a lot of times in, I think, both worlds, people aren't willing to really invest in it until they believe that the artist is committed to the evolution of their work, sure, but also like to doing this. Like it's not just like a thing they picked up for a year or two.
That's very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. So let's talk a bit about your NFT journey. So what did you like do in the past with NFTs? What are you doing now? Are you having any, collections freshly minted? I know that last time that we spoke in Zagreb, you told me that you sell your NFT and physical art separately. So what's going on in NFT journey of Gretchen?
Yes. So yeah, like the as a digitally engaged artist who ultimately makes oil paintings, I still spend quite a lot of time in the digital art world as it brushes up with the NFT world. So a couple exciting things. I just did a fun project with FX Hash. It's a generative art platform where in my painting series, I'm looking at the impact of AI and algorithmic adjustments to beauty filters to our faces, Facetune, BodyTune, and that's explored in a completely different way in my paintings. But then with FX Hash, we explored the idea of how there's all this talk about AI making things like more interesting, and it's like this explosion of creativity. But we're actually seeing the impact of AI is it's making everything more the same. It's making everything more predictable. It's making every restaurant have the same menu. Every email starts the same way. And in physical appearance, these AI-driven beauty filters are making everybody's face and bodies look exactly the same. And so I was thinking about how generative art is really the opposite of this. Generative art uses a random variable to follow a set of rules and algorithms and protocols that an artist creates, but has this element of randomness in it. It is inherently the opposite of this compression of identity. It is a celebration of diversity, of variation, and we started to explore like what is the difference between a face-tuned identity and an FX face-tune? What is it like when instead of using these algorithms to make everything more the same, we use these face-tuning algorithms to celebrate difference, to make things more variable, and like that sort of conceptual exploration of sort of these two movements that we're seeing where AI is making everything more the same, but then obviously generative art is like a very large part of the NFT community.
Yeah, definitely. So talking about AI, what's your thoughts on AI art and artists using some AI tools to improve or change a bit their art, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm tend to be like both like pro technology from a practical standpoint and also like very apocalyptic about sort of what I think it's ultimately doing to our society. I personally spend more of my time making art that reveals and criticizes our relationship to technology than fundamentally using it as a tool. I'm very interested in using my art for people to understand more about how these systems are working and how they're working on us and what that reveals about what our society prioritizes.
Okay. Do you have a like favorite NFT marketplace maybe?
Oh, I have to say I love FX Hash. It's a team that I really
Okay.
love, and a very interesting community who I think is the right intersection of really working to push technical boundaries, a very vibrant community, a real marketplace as well. Like there's a lot of people who make a great living through it and also are very serious about that particular type of work. So I think they've done a really good job being various types of serious.
Cool. So
Also being
would you
fun.
yeah, I mean, community is everything. So when you find a good community around the marketplace, it's where you stay. Do you think that NFT technology related to art has a future? Would you kind of bet on it or no?
Yeah, I mean, even when I sell my physical paintings, we're selling them with blockchain certified certificates of ownership, and
And
that,
that's like when you think about it, that's like NFT, a smart contract, right?
yeah, exactly. So it's using the same set of
Mhm.
technologies. I don't whether or not it's like technically an NFT or whatever. I mean, someone else can like tell me that, but the underlying technologies and ownership verification and transfer, I think, are an important part of provenance in the future of art.
Definitely. Ownership, plagiarism, scams, it takes, this tech gives a lot of, you know, ability for an artist to own the work. And so, what do you think? Talking about ownership and the technology, what do you think of royalties?
Like resale royalties.
Yeah, creator royalties, because there's been a lot of talk back when OpenSea cut down the royalties, and now there is again talks should have not been royalties. So what is your thought there?
Well, I mean, it's just really like I think it's a misplaced sense of trust in the technology, because I think the idea was that this was built into the technology, and so they couldn't change, they couldn't be taken away, they couldn't be, but that was just a naive understanding of what these platforms do, these intermediaries. It's like the Sam Bankman-Fried of like, if there's untrusting trust, like as soon as you're building a really easy usable platform on top of this technology, you're often not being true to its inherent capabilities. But yeah, like I think that's why you need laws, and laws are not particularly popular right now, and like they also are proving to have little meaning. But ultimately, like these systems are deeply intertwined with other systems of meaning, systems of laws, systems of currency exchange, and very rarely as artists or technologists are we interacting with the pure system. Usually there's layers that we're trusting in between, and ultimately there was no reason why we should have trusted an intermediary who is not even a person, right? It's an entity. Like one of the big things going on in the States right now is one of the big genetic testing companies is in bankruptcy. 23andMe is in bankruptcy. So while there was an agreement between everyone who did genetic testing and 23andMe to not sell the data, once 23andMe doesn't exist, they can now sell the data. Like, it's like, I can remember early on, back a while ago, I worked for Google in 2010, and I remember being like, oh, I'm not so worried about all this privacy stuff. Like, I really, trust this company and the company's leadership, and they're like, that is irrelevant. Like, these people are not going to be here forever. Like, these leaders are not going to be here forever. These people in power are not going to be, these Congress people, whatever, it is. It's like, is there a system in place that somebody could come and exploit? And that's really, I think, what you get with a lot of like platforms or intermediaries. Like, there's this great Turing lecture called On Trusting Trust, and it's just like when you tell a friend a secret, you have to, and they're going to tell someone who's not going to tell anyone else, who's not going to tell anybody else. Like, ultimately, it's what else are you trusting when you put your work or yourself out there?
Yeah. I mean, you should definitely be careful where do you put your data into. But since we are going more and more digital, it's like you have to put your data somewhere, because otherwise you will not be able to use anything. So it's
it's just being sort of aware of it.
Or what can happen. So do you have an artist that inspires you?
Oh, I have many. I'm going to an opening tonight of the artist Penny Slinger, who is a feminist surrealist, and she's done some NFTs as well. Really comes from a collage background, and so like everything from like paper and early photography, analog photography through to the digital and immersive spaces. And so she's a mentor of mine, and I'm looking forward to going to see her opening tonight in New York.
Nice, cool. You're gonna have a great night.
Yeah. So, I know I'm going to take a nap first, but it's
yeah, of course. After the interview.
Well, not right now. I'll wait till the interview's over.
Yeah. So one last question. What would you leave us off with? What advice would you give for these 70 young students?
Yeah, I think it's to follow your curiosity, and that it's learning these technologies and these skills will be valuable beyond whatever it is you decide to do with your first collection or your 10th collection. Fundamentally, you're learning a set of transferable skills, which I think is really one of the very compelling things about the NFT world, is the some of the annoyances or steps that you'll go through to get it all set up will teach you about a set of technologies that might help you in various other aspects of your life. And I think that's always really interesting, when we can be making art that hopefully teaches us about ourselves and about our society and our culture, while also learning practical technology skills. It's cool. Enjoy it.
Nice. Beautifully said. Thank you very much.
Thank you.